This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
We have to start in the beginning because you and I ran into each other in an in-person audition. Well, we can say what it's for. Oh, wait, did you get it?
No, we can't say what. Did you get it? I left hoping that you were going to get it.
I left hoping you. I swear to God, I left and I called my agent and I said, I just met this actress. I swear to God, she's going to get it. And I was like, Jolene Purdy. And he's like, oh, I know Jolene. I was like, I love her. I'm going to get her on the podcast.
That's what I called my reps right after. And I was like, I just met this amazing actress. She has a podcast. Can we figure out, I just want to talk to her more.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Can I tell you about my audition and then I want to hear about yours?
Yes.
Because I went in and I was already laughing. I made some wild choices with this because we can say this. Let's say it was one page, essentially. Our sides were one page, pretty vanilla.
Yeah.
With no breakdown other than she likes to gossip.
Yeah.
That's basically what we got a little bit. And when I walked in, I asked for a little bit. They're like, are you ready? And I'm like, well, if you have any other information that you think might be important for me to know, I'd love to know. And they gave me a little bit more. They told me that one of the lead characters from the series is a neighbor. Did you get that information?
I got that info, yeah.
And obviously we're significantly older than her and married, whatever. So I did it. We did it a couple of times. We played. And then when I was done, they're like, anything else? And I was like, yes. I wish I could stay here for the rest of the day and see what everybody's doing. And he started laughing. He was like, everybody's so different. I was like, I would have loved to seen Jolene's, her take on it. I just would like to see what everybody was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. What you can do anything.
Because we had nothing.
We had nothing.
Anything was fair game.
So how did you approach it, or what was your take? I made her a little vapid. I made her wanting to still be 20 and trying to fit in. That was and her hobby being drinking. I kind of put the emphasis on that. She's gone full tilt in order for her to get to that second scene that we just have one take, which I also, did they tell you for the second scene that they're at she was at a party with a bunch of 20-year-olds?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had fun with some improv in that.
I feel like they gave me maybe different notes.
Great. This is what I think is so great. What notes did they give you? Because
she's given up on life.
Oh. Interesting. Again, wild different takes. She's given up on life. Okay.
Yeah. Just a bored housewife that lives for this gossip because she's given up on every other aspect of her life. And I knew the aesthetic of the show, so I kind of came prepared with that aesthetic. And I was like, dang. And I verbalized this. I said, I wish I would have known. I would have just come as myself. And that was fun.
What did they say?
They just started laughing. And I was like, I relate to this. Carry on. And we did it 3 different ways. And with each time, we just took a different kind of flavor, I guess. And the last scene at the party, I was like, so can I do it as if it's really loud? And they're like, we're probably going to do that on the day. And I did it twice. And they're like, you know what? Do it like it's loud. I was like, okay. So I love casting directors that let you play.
That was the great thing about being in the room is I felt like anybody's choices, they were, that's what I also like because I work with actors as well, is whatever somebody brings to the table, then the casting directors can be like, ooh, more of that. Actually, ooh, that's interesting. Try this. Oh, I didn't think about it like that. And that's what I think is exciting about getting to go back in the room, because I know a lot of people that made a tape for that as well. And they didn't get the whole, oh, that's the neighbor, right? Or she's 20 years younger, or you've given up on life. You didn't get a lot of these little notes that you could kind of create in the moment.
Yeah.
I think is kind of fascinating. Have you been did you go in the room for the Bondsman, or was that on tape?
So I taped it, but my reps, I love taking direction. It's like, I love it. I love being able to shift things around on the fly. It gives me so much excitement. And I taped it and it was completely different than how it was kind of written. And they were like, we need to get you in the room on this one. And I had worked with the casting director, Terry Taylor, on Unseen for Blumhouse prior. And so because we had a connection, they were like, yeah, just come in and we'll play. And I read it the way that I took it. And they were like, and it's a long, I had like, it was pages and pages and pages. It was like 2 or 3.
Well, I was going to even ask, because that first episode, it's just you guys on the couch. The scene that's really there. Was
Yeah.
that what you had to audition with?
Yeah, yeah. Both of those scenes where I have a lot of expository dialogue. So it's pages and pages of me just saying words memorized. And they wanted her to be strong and be able to go toe to toe with Kevin. And I was like, okay, yeah. But there's something funny about her being charming and knowing that she's in control and settled in it as opposed to proving it. So I read it kind of with a humor behind it, trying to find the funny and to color the expository dialogue. And so when I went in, Terry was like, okay, do you have any questions? And my go-to is, how about I just throw out what I have and you tell me how to make it better? And we did that.
I love that. And tell me where we can go up.
Tell me how to make it better. Because they do. They know the project better than we do, right?
True.
So there's no ego in it. Let's just play. It's fun. It's, we suffer so much as actors. This is the joy of it, right? Is the play.
Yes.
So she was like, yeah, great. Go for it. So like I do a 3-page monologue of a scene as this like kind of charming, dark undertone kind of character. And she stopped and there was dead air. And I was like, damn it. That was not the way to go. And she went, huh, that works. And I was like,
and that's also what you did in your tape as well. They just kind of had you come in to work it.
Yeah.
Then did they give adjustments at that time to do it the way that they've been seeing it?
She said, now can you do it more like it's written?
Stop.
Yeah, more stern and in control and telling the rules. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's easy. This was a lot of manipulating the dialogue to get this kind of thing. And I did it, a whole 3-page monologue again in a different character. And she, again, dead air. Huh, that works too. And I was just like, cool. And she goes, so the second scene, would you be okay doing it both ways again? And I was like, well, that's why I'm here. And that's why you are meeting with me so that I can do these things. She was like, okay, great. So I did the second scene. I can't remember now because they kind of shifted them on me through the process. But I did the second scene, the like way I did it on the show and then the way it was written. And it was just so fun to give that A to Z.
And do you know if they sent both tapes forward for producers and decision makers?
They did. Yeah. Yeah.
So then did you just get the call? No, you just got the call that you got it. Did you have to go test?
It was painful. It was like, how there's a role that comes around that you're like, I want this. I don't know how to make it happen, but I want this. And it's, we can't care that much about every single role that comes by. But this happened to be one that I was like, I want this. And so I waited and I waited. And it was like a month that went by. And I saw on Instagram an open casting call for my character. Yes. Now with the description that was exactly what I did in the audition. Specifically Asian, specifically like these things. And I was so fucking mad. I'm not going to lie. I was just like, why? Like I wasn't good enough, but they like that. Okay.
They're going to basically steal what you did and try to put it on a different instrument.
Yeah.
No.
Haven't you had that happen though? That happens all the time. All the time. It's infuriating because like get an actor that can build a character, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
That well, you're
Uh,
like, that's my job. So I can't tell you also, I have a lot of friends that are very comedic and they'll tell me all the time, they bring me in because they want to make the writing better. I'm not going to get it. They're going to give it to a name, but do it the way I did it.
yep.
And blows my mind. Okay, so after the casting call goes out, do you call your team to be like, what the fuck is happening? Why?
100%. Yes. I screenshot it. I sent it to them and then I called them. I was like, I want you to have the receipts before I even make this phone call.
Good for well, and at this point, are they holding you? Have they even said, oh, there's interest? Or that was you just went in and they're like,
Nothing.
so then how long before they're like, oh, this open call is not going to touch a Jolene Purdy? Like you can't touch this gold before they call you to say what?
Well, so then they called casting and they're like, so does she need to come in again now that it's kind of broken down differently? And they're like, oh no, we like her. We're just trying to find other actors that kind of can play in that world that she was in. So they were essentially trying to find,
Somebody, something.
yeah, something, someone that would read it similarly that could maybe put their own stamp on it. I think it's your own like authentic stamp that you put on a character that gets you the job. It's not that you say the lines better or different than anyone else. It's like you organically what you bring. So I think that's why there's not as much competition because I'm never going to be you. I'm never going to make the same choices.
Mhm.
So they were just looking for someone that could put their own spin on it as well, maybe with some new information that I brought into the room. So we wait and we wait. It's like maybe like two weeks go by, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to bring her in for a callback with the showrunner and director, and we're going to work the material." So we work the material, and it goes from like what I had brought, and then they bring it down to what was written. So I'm like, "Okay." We're seeing where the world is. I'm working the material for you a little bit, which I enjoy doing, especially
Yeah.
if I get the job. So we did that, and then it was like 2 days later, you have a chemistry read on Zoom with Kevin.
Oh, God, the chemistry's in room, like the chemistry Zooms. Psst, gotta love those. Gotta love that one. Technology. How did it go with Kevin? What are
Well,
your tricks as far as chemistry over a two dimension?
oh, I don't think there's a trick other than like hope, pray, and be present and hope for like good internet connection. Like kind of that's where
Yeah,
a comedy over Zoom is fucking terrible
it
because there's a
is.
lag and there's a timing to comedy that you just can't tighten and get together. But reading with and again, like so the first audition was those two long monologue scenes. Then the second audition was one monologue scene that I had already memorized, and then like a scene from episode 5, which was more emotional against Kevin. Then for the chemistry read, they went back to the first scene that I didn't read for the second one, so I had to rememorize that. And then the fifth scene so I was just like, where is my head with all of these like pages?
And how was it with Kevin?
He's just so relaxed and so cool. And luckily, I was more in the mindset of, I want this job. Like, I know what I'm hitting, throw it out the window and just go, as opposed to, I'm freaking reading, I am no
Yeah.
degrees from Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
I just was gonna say, because it would be hard for me to be like, I am now 0 degrees.
Yeah.
Let's get started. Not
Yeah.
to make a little joke about the whole situation right then and there. That
Yeah. So I was less focused on him and more focused on like the work, which
Yeah.
was good because then I didn't embarrass myself the way I could have.
I mean, no, you're such an outstanding actress. I've been just staring at your mug for the last week. That's the joy of getting to do this too, being in this position is I get to go through your IMDb, get to go through the characters, the time in which we've shifted and changed from, I mean, you started basically as a teenager, working through your 20s, working through your 30s, working through being a mom. You can see the shift and the gradual comfortability of being on camera and what you're able and life lived, what you can bring to the table. I was curious, but I did, since you and Beth Grant both worked on Donnie Darko, which was was that the absolute first thing you did, or did you do Boston Public before?
That was my first audition on camera in my entire life.
That's what I was hoping. Okay. I want to go all the way back to the beginning. And also,
Yeah.
even before that, was this something you always wanted to do? I love that there's nothing on the internet about your background whatsoever, except for the descent of both of your parents. And that's
Mhm.
it. I don't even know where you're from. If you went to school for this, like, can you fill me in a little bit? Where was all of a sudden where you're like, okay, I'm going to go audition for Donnie Darko now?
It has been such a painful journey, I would say.
Also,
I grew up a single mom and I wanted to do it when I was younger, but she didn't have the time, you know?
yeah.
And it was second grade and she saw an ad in the paper for a children's theater that rehearsed on Sundays so she could take me. And so she took me to this children's theater and I was hooked immediately. Annie. And I grew up in the South Bay. Annie was yours too?
I mean, who
Ugh,
doesn't want to be Annie? When
that's
you're our
right.
age and little, I think I burned out that VHS tape. Not to date us, but I was like, again.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I did that show. I was hooked and I proceeded to do the show. They had 2 shows a year. And so I did those shows growing up. And my grandparents said, oh, let's pay for voice lessons for her and dance lessons for her. So I started kind of doing that through middle school, which is terrible. I got made fun of so badly doing this children's theater. And I did some regional theater as my mom and stuff could take me to go do it.
Mhm.
Um, but I in high school, I think it was like my sophomore year, I was doing Grease and it was like a blackout. And there was a girl that came up to me and said, what are you even doing here? Get off the stage before you embarrass yourself.
No.
And I just lost it and I started crying. And I went on for the next scene and I couldn't stop crying. And I walked off and I went to go find my mom who was volunteering there, single mom, just killing it. And I said, I can't do this. And she had always told me, when it's not fun, we're done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And in that instant, my mom, who was running so much at that theater at that point, handed all the books over and said, you're harboring an environment of bullying, and I no longer accept it. Handed everything over, and we walked.
Good. I could cry.
And I
Thank you, Mommy.
quit.
And you quit. So
And I
16,
quit.
17, you're done.
16, done. But cut to, I'm now in high school. And I was this, I don't know what kind of confidence I had in my youth, but like I wish I could have some of it back. I left every person I knew and I went to a different high school that had a better performing arts like program. So I went to Redondo High School and they were doing South Pacific and I was a sophomore and there was a senior that was supposed to get Bloody Mary, but I like rehearsed and practiced and I wanted it. And I got it as a sophomore. And I remember crying because she was my friend and she thought she was going to get it. And it was, this whole thing. But I got one of the leads in the musical as a sophomore. And I took that song to a British arts competition in London, and I took first place for US in this
Wow.
competition. And so I quit the theater, but then got the lead role, took first in London, and then auditioned for Donnie Darko.
Okay, how does Donnie Darko come to you? Because do you have an agent after doing these, going to London? Did an agent pick you up? Or how do you get the opportunity?
I took a musical theater class with a woman who became a manager, and she predominantly did like musical theater, which is where my heart was, which is what I wanted to do. It was like the only acceptable art form in my little Broadway brain. So I remember going to her after the workshop and saying, hey, would you represent me? And not in her words, but essentially it's, you're too fat and Asian, you'll never work at 16.
You're too fat and Asian, is what she said. You'll
Mhm.
never work. I mean, I would just like to say, lady, you bet on the wrong thing. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, so then you pivot and it does somebody then say, no, 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 I see talent. I want to do this. I want to represent.
So a year later, one of my best friends, her mom is now working at the management company, and Donnie Darko comes across, and she goes, can we put Jolene in for this?" And she said, "Sure." So she calls me and she's like, "Hey, send me a picture. You can use me, and if you book it, then I guess I'll represent you."
Huh. Gotta love that. Gotta love the hip pocket. If you get it, I'll take your money. If
Mhm.
not, we'll see what happens. Are you the type of person? I like when somebody tells me no. I like when somebody tells me we don't want your type or we don't need you. I go above and beyond. It's when people
Mhm.
are like, we want you. And I'm like, really? No. Oh, what are you looking at? And I want to
Something is wrong
hide.
with you if you want
Yes.
me, for
Yes.
sure.
But are you the person that takes the challenge?
I
Okay.
am very much that person because I like to be right, so I will prove you wrong.
Yep. Yep. It can really be a great driving force sometimes.
Yeah.
So, how is that first audition? Because you had been doing some auditions with theater and stuff, but that's a totally different audition, essentially.
Completely different. And it was on the Universal lot. And my mom had to take me. And they had posters of all of these movies that I'd never seen because Broadway. And I was just like so out of depth. And there was a camera, an actual like camera, because now everything is so digital, but like a real one. And it was just like, don't look at the camera. Just look at
Yeah.
the person reading with you, you know? And Michelle Gertz was she has a different last name now, but she was the casting director. And she was just so lovely. And played, I had one line, "shut up," but so many different ways to
I'm
say it.
so many different ways to say it, and those are the hardest ones. Even the audition that we had, the one page sometimes is the hardest audition. You can create anything, you can create any world, anything is a possibility. I think the one line is even harder. Like,
Way harder, especially if you have to repeat it.
yes.
It's like a bad acting. Isn't there a
Bad Meisner. Like it's just,
technique?
yeah, it's just bad. It can go really bad. It can go really great, you know? It's just I think that also comes down to confidence where you don't have to fill it in more. Fill it in enough to create the world so we know where we're
Yeah,
at, but like you're transitional. Let's not also take up too much space because we need to keep the scene going.
exactly.
So when you get this phone call that you got it, does she now represent you for a while, this person?
He now represented me for a good long while, like a decade, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, getting Donnie Darko, even though it's a line, and this was the connection I was making earlier that you and Beth Grant worked on Donnie Darko and then are now working together on The Bondsman. That's pretty. Did you guys meet each other on Donnie Darko if you were only there probably maybe for a day?
We kind of met, but in regards to that, I was a kid. So there's
Yes.
just a different level of meeting, and she was kind to me and fun and lovely then, but we didn't really interact. And even again, I was so out of depth. Like I had no idea what was happening. And I remember sitting down with the cast and overhearing when I got up to leave, Noah Wiley making comments about like how like skittish I was.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Not in a bad way at all, but just like, oh, she's very timid. Something like that. Nothing terrible by
Nothing terrible, but your first job, like everything that first job, to have it your first audition also be your first job. I have
with
to
Drew
ask.
Barrymore and Jake Gyllenhaal and Patrick Swayze. What?
I mean, especially, yes, that's really, I would be flabbergasted. I would be in a place, yeah, timid. And also, you're a teenager. Like, you're just starting to kind of understand. You're not even understanding yet, I don't think, for the
Mhm.
industry, like, to be bullied in a way. The industry is a bullying machine. So before you even get into it, to be bullied or be told that we don't want your type here is what
Yeah,
a lot of us hear, and then still come up and over it and then get, I don't want to say rewarded, but given the responsibility then to be like, okay, well, here's a shot. Great. So then what happens if after Downey Darko or while it's in the process of coming out or even it comes out, it doesn't feel like you ever really stop working. Did it open a lot of floodgates for you to start just popping around to a bunch of television?
A little bit, but I don't think my manager was well connected enough to utilize it the way that it should have been.
So walk me through learning the business then as a teenager before you start kind of, because I mean, Do Not Disturb is kind of like the first recur that comes in, right? That I have.
Yeah, and I did like Boston Public and Judging Amy, just like one-off things. And then I was a singer at Disneyland for 6 years.
That's okay.
So that's where that gap kind of came in is I still wanted to do musical theater. So I was pursuing musical theater. I was auditioning for Broadway. I was like doing the whole thing because that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
So what takes you out of being at Disneyland? Which show? Because I didn't know that musical theater, because look at this television resume. Holy bananas.
Yeah.
Television, I love how somebody told you we don't want your type, and then you don't, once you start working in television, you really don't stop. You don't stop. You don't. So if we're doing Disneyland for 6 years, you're still trying out for Broadway. Do you start just doing television because your agents and managers are sending it to you, or is it more like, okay, I would like to get myself in a financial place so I can continue to still hustle to get to Broadway?
I was making 80 grand at Disneyland as an 18-year-old. I was happy and fine. I know. I'm not going to say how old I am, but like back in the day, that's how much I was making at Disneyland. Crazy. So I was
That's
like,
amazing.
I could do this forever. Not really, but I took college classes and stuff, and I would book jobs and I would have to drop out and go back and forth. And I just kind of was doing that. They would send me some TV stuff here and there, and I would go in on it. But Do Not Disturb, I had left Disney. I was doing a world premiere musical at the Pasadena Playhouse. And I had a cast member that was also with the same management company. And so she sent, this is the first series regular audition that I've ever been sent. And she told me, go coach with him, who was on the show with me. And so I worked with him on this audition. And the character was someone that was wanting to be a singer. And so I was like, well, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So I worked with him on the sides and I went in for the audition and it was Greenstein, Daniel, Brett and Colin, and Sherry Hernandez was there, I think at the time too, it was a while back. And we played and I didn't kind of know any better. I think that's where I like thrive is when I don't know any better. Like Donnie Darko, I didn't know any better. Like Do Not Disturb, I didn't know any better. So I go in for that and they start sending me like multiple series regular auditions for other shows that season too. So they were
Your
like,
agents do, not Greenstein Daniel, but your
Christy
agent.
Daniel had me
I was
come
just
for another one.
great. That's what I was, because I have this, because then 10 Things I Hate About You was right after that.
So
They love
literally,
you.
Do Not Disturb got canceled and they put me straight into 10 Things.
Did you have to audition?
Yeah.
But they're such a warm room. They also gave me my first job. I love them.
Oh, what
I
was
love
it?
them. Remember, it was Not Another Gay Movie, which
Oh,
was Todd Stevens. Todd Stevens had won Sundance a few years before, and then they were doing this spoof. It was so ridiculous. But yes,
I love
yes.
it. I
It
love
didn't maybe
it.
turn out the way we wanted it to turn out. It was way more risque. It was my first movie where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm playing a cheerleader and I'm kind of making fun of like the whole Stifler moment.
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh.
I do that all the time. When you see it come to life, you're like, well, that's not quite how I imagined that.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
it was early in my career. I don't remember having the full script. I just remember having my parts and just being like, oh my God, I'm going to get to be in a movie. How great. And my audition, I swung for the
Mhm.
fences and they liked that. Yeah, they're great,
Yeah.
but they're a great office. They are very supportive. And I love that then turned into 10 Things I Hate About You. Okay, so then so now we're on a ride because oh 08, oh 09, 10, 11, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, you don't stop. You don't stop.
Wait,
So
but I
just,
got to talk about my Do Not Disturb audition because
I want to hear it. I want
that's
to hear it.
the epic one where everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and yet so right. So it's my first audition for a series regular, and you know there's rounds, and I don't know studio network test. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And again, like I'm older, but I still am like, Mom, can you come with me? I need a person. This is big, you know? And I remember going in for the studio test, and they wanted me to work. Jason Bateman was our director for it, so they wanted me to work. I know. He's
Come
incredible.
on.
I know. He's magical. And so they wanted me to work with him before we went in for the studio, right? So I work with him, and then I leave the Fox lot to go have coffee bean with my mom. And my manager starts calling me, where the fuck are you? You have to stay there. Why did you leave? And I was like, I don't know. Nobody told me any better. So now I'm hauling ass back to the lot where I was supposed to have been. And I literally get there and they're like, okay, go in. And I'm like straight off of Coffee Bean, like trying to figure it out, had to go straight in and do the thing with Niecy Nash, who I would be playing opposite with most. So I go in and Niecy and I are like playing and it's fun. And I just am like, God, I think I want this. That was the point that I was like, gee, I think I want this.
Yes.
And then we get to the network test.
Are
So
you doing the network the same day?
no, it was like, I got a call right when I got home after the studio test that I'm going to network test. And I was like, what does that mean? What do I do differently? Because I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, same thing, just more people. It's like, fantastic, an audience. So I go to the network test and I know better than to leave. And I'm like there with all of these people that are like famous actors. And, you know, I've talked to friends and they're like, when do you get starstruck? And it's usually people that you grew up watching once you start working and you're not as starstruck by it, but it's the ones that you like loved as a teenager or like in your youth.
100%.
So I think like Jamie Lynn Sigler was there, and I remember like watching her on stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's. And then Jesse Tyler Ferguson from Spelling Bee was there, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it was just like the waiting room, right? Is just a little tense.
Uh-huh.
Everyone wants it. It's a network show. It's stakes are high, and I have no fashion sense. I've since gotten better, but I have no fashion sense. So I have these like wedge sandals with, you know, the thing goes between your toe, right?
Yeah.
Well, my feet are sweating, right? And so my foot slides through the little part that's supposed to hold my foot in. So now I have a busted shoe going into a network test. And I am trying to figure it out. I'm looking on the walls for like a thumbtack that maybe I can MacGyver some way to fix this shoe. And I don't see anything. I have gum in my mouth, which you probably shouldn't have. But I was like, maybe gum will work. Maybe, I don't know. And then finally I kind of fess up to it. I'm like, I tell the secretary that's sitting at the front desk, I'm like, I broke my shoe and I don't know what to do. Can I go in barefoot? Is that
Yeah.
okay? And she was the loveliest woman. And she goes, what size are you?
Is she the right size?
She's the right size. It's a Cinderella moment. And she gives me her shoes. And I literally walked into my network test for my first ever pilot in someone else's shoes.
Oh my gosh. Did
Mhm.
you end up buying her a box of shoes or a pair of shoes post?
I didn't know how to find her because I had no context of who and where and what. And I was so like young and like just like what's happening. So much was
Oh
happening.
my, did
But
it go with the outfit? I have to ask the questions. I'm right there with you with no fashion sense as well. So I wouldn't have even cared. But also, you're walking in. Does it go with the outfit? Are you wearing like tennis shoes and a dress? Like what shoes did she have?
they were black flats. So yeah. And I think I had like jeans or black leggings or something like that. So it was like, okay,
We can
black
make this work.
slacks, black pants. Great. Yeah. Probably a better choice than what I was wearing, actually.
You were
So,
grounded, much more grounded. I
yes.
always say too, with acting, like have a primary and secondary focus. So you're not so much on the other person or on the other. Your primary focus is no longer about this audition. It's about your shoes. And what the
100%. Mm-hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
And that's how you get. But I also like you. I'm starting to see a pattern whenever it's like, whatever, I don't know what I'm doing. You tend to get it.
Yes.
That's the first series regular. And then 10 Things I Hate About You is right after that. It seems like you're starting to become that actor that understands how to or gets on a show now and now is learning the lesson of like, not every show goes.
Oh, I'm still learning that lesson. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Not every show goes. Or like, thank you for this one season and you're now released. At
Yes.
at what point in your career do you feel like you've sunk into, I'm going to be doing this. I will go from show to show. Like, when do you start to become the person in the waiting room that everybody else is like, oh, Jolene's here. Oh, she's because you have worked on so many shows. I'm just so the audience that's listening. Then you have 10 Things I Hate About You. You have Gigantic, which that goes for 2 seasons or 1 season on Nickelodeon.
One long
One
season.
long, it was
Yeah.
18 episodes, right?
Episodes.
Um,
Yeah.
let's jump over to Glee and say hi to Ryan Murphy for a little bit because everybody needs to. And then
Yeah.
Under the Dome, which was such a, that to me felt like a very kind of shift in your choice in your acting. Was that hard for them to see you for that? Did you have a hard time getting in the room for Under the Dome?
So, to backtrack a little bit, doing Do Not Disturb was multi-camera, so it was live audience, and there was a cast member whose manager came to see him in the show, and he walked up to me and said, "You don't have a manager on your IMDb who represents you." And I said, because my manager at that point had turned into an agent, so I didn't have a manager. And I said, "Oh," he's like, "Go take meetings, and then you'll realize you should be with me. Here's my card."
I mean, I like a person who goes like, direct. Yes.
Since 2008, I have been with the same manager that I met on that set. And if you look at the trajectory of my career,
Right at that point.
that's where it turned. He has believed in me more than I have ever believed in myself. He has made me more uncomfortable than I've ever been in the
How
best
so?
ways. Just like challenged me, all he hears my voice in roles and not a breakdown. And so he reads the scripts, he reads the sides, he knows what I can and can't do. And he's so kind. He's like, there's nothing you can't do, honestly. But there are things that I know that are more built for you. So he has sent me in on some roles that I'm not right for. Male roles a lot of times, which
Great.
is great.
Great.
And so sometimes I would call and I would say, everyone here is blonde, blue-eyed, super thin, and I'm not. And he's like, great. You don't have to do anything to stand out.
I love him. Okay, just because I was having this conversation with a big group of actors right before this about how to handle your relationship with your teammates, because they're working essentially for you. What is your guys' strategy? I love hearing how he hears your voice and that's what he targets. Do you guys have a strategy or a game plan? Are you somebody that's like, hey, I actually want to start doing more of this now, or I think of this? Or is he somebody that's reviewing your tapes and giving you feedback? What kind of interpersonal relationship are you guys working on towards your career? And I'm sure it's evolved since 2008 because you've got a huge body of work now to support probably a lot of his vision, which I would love to
Yes.
hear. But how do you guys work together on what comes next or how to maneuver your career?
He has basically, I don't want to say groomed me, because but he has taught me the business side of what this is and what it looks like and how to level up essentially and the kinds of things that I should focus on. And he has reviewed, I call him after every audition and we talk through what were the notes, how did you take it, what was this, very detail oriented. I would say I have the best manager in town, hands down. I actually have two managers.
Well, that was my next question. A
Uh-huh.
lot of people are just writing with a manager now, but I noticed you had two. So I was wondering how you do that. How do you negotiate that?
So I'm like, do I shift? Do I go back to the thing? So the two manager thing, my second manager that came on more recently, he was with A3, which was Abrams, and he
Yep.
left and then became a manager. And when A3 kind of did their little crumble and I was with them, it was, do we take meetings? And we had people reach out, which was very nice for my ego. We had people reach out and ultimately he threw his hat in the ring and was like, I could still act as an agent on the team for you, even though I have the umbrella of management. And we had finally, Bernard Kira and Matt Gogol. So Bernard Kira is who I started working with in '08. And Matt, we just worked together so well. They were friends as well. It was just so family, friends, and business combined in a really wonderful way, a caring way. And I was scared. Honestly, I was like, but is this the point where I should get like a good agent? I had been like with boutiques because I'm a different kind of person. I need more hands-on. And I just was like, no, why not have two managers?
Especially if they both, it's the contract that you guys all make between each other, essentially. So going back to my initial question of how you work with Bernard, you guys are breaking down every time you have an audition, working through it. He's looking for parts where it's your voice. Your voice is so specific, and I don't mean the tone of your voice. I mean how you approach character and story is so inviting. It's so interesting. It really actually does go against the writing and makes the writing so much better. I'm glad that he found you. So how does the other manager contribute, or what is the working relationship now between the three of you for your career?
So as Bernard and I kind of started doing things, and as things have come into like self-tape world, right? We've developed this kind of system because you don't get direction or notes or anything. And because I'm so malleable, and that's kind of a strength that I have that you don't get to exercise in self tapes, we do A to Z. So I do a take that's a Jolene take, and I do a take that's a page take, like what's on the page, and then I do a fuck it take. And they sometimes send all three because they're like, what do you want? She can do it all. That sounds so bad for me to say out loud.
No,
That's
it
what they
doesn't.
say. That's what
No,
they do.
that is what, absolutely. I think you need to own, I think every artist gets to own their artistry. You are very malleable, incredibly malleable. I would love to see your take on everything. I mean that genuinely. When you see somebody work, like when you used to being, I don't know if were you ever in class? Were you ever in acting class, or
I've
has
taken
the
some
set?
classes.
You've
Yeah.
taken some class. When you see some people and you're like, I'd love to see their take on this. I feel like you are that actor. I would love to see your take on so many things. Where like, just be so curious what her voice would be in, or what her instrument would bring to this that mine can't, right? Or somebody else's can't. Like, and I bring something different. I think that's the celebratory thing of this. Once actors get past that point of trying to people please,
Hmm.
you're not people pleasing by sending three takes. To me, it's like, truly, I can do anything.
Yep.
So give me a little bit of direction. You want this more somber? You want this with a woman who's down and out? I'll show you that version. You want the woman
Yeah.
that's more vapid? What are you, like, where are we landing here? Also, what a great, brilliant choice, especially when, so the audience knows, a lot of the shows, you're joining them in the first season or the second season. So to be able to work with your managers like this, it's a vanilla. This pilot is vanilla. We don't know who else has been cast yet, or maybe we do, but it's a puzzle that needs to be fit together. And if your puzzle piece can literally change to fit the puzzle, why wouldn't you show that? I love that you have that working relationship. That makes a lot of sense.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
So from Do Not Disturb, 10 Things I Hate About You to Gigantic to Glee, was Under the Dome kind of a specific pivot, or like that to me feels like a breaking point of a pivot?
It was. I finished Gigantic and I was like 25. playing opposite 16-year-olds. And I called my reps and I was like, I don't think there's enough Red Bull to get me through playing a teenager anymore. I think she's aged up a little bit. Like she's got to be over 18 at this point. Like let's try and see where we can find that ground. And so I didn't work for 2 years
Oh, interesting.
because
Really?
I said I didn't want to play a teenager anymore.
So then did your manager have to start knocking on doors to get them to see you differently, or did we just start targeting new casting directors?
We started just throwing it out to see. I had working relationships with some casting directors, and so he would always say, this is an outside of the box, take it or don't, but take it. And I would go in for like, I was 26, and I went in for a 6-year-old lesbian African American dog walker because why not?
Why not?
So
I love your manager. You're
yeah.
like, nope, let me show you what she could do here. And then being the person in the room that's different than anybody else that's in the room. I love that earlier he said, then you don't have to do much to stand out. Is that how your confidence lands now too? When you walk into a room and you're like, there's only one Jolene here. There's only one.
It does. Finally, all of these years later that I've been working with him, I'm finally at the point where I don't need him to say it to me anymore. He did for years, and I would just be happy to be at the table. And now I'm like, no, I'm at the table. Come to my table a little bit. Just that confidence of having worked enough to know that I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing a little bit. I still have so much to learn and so much growth. I think it just happens as you keep working. So I'm excited to see like what comes, in like a decade to see what
I am
happens.
too. I am too. Like this is the career that just keeps on going and going and going and evolving. Okay, because people are going to see your resume and they will be mad if I didn't ask this. And I want to ask this in a specific way. So after Under the Dome, then you do Benched, then Orange is the New Black, and then here comes an audition for White Lotus. It's first season. We don't know what it is, but it is Mike White. And it's not a huge scene. It's not a huge character. I would love to know what the strategy was at that point to be like, yeah, I want to go do White Lotus. Or maybe you're just like me. I like to work, and it depends on who I'm working with, what the script is, or I need money. Because sometimes people will be like, wait, be a day player on something? Yeah, of course I would. I would love to. But some people, if they have a strategy, don't want to pivot their responsibility to be a smaller part, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I'm really curious, going from Orange is the New Black. There's a lot of one-offs. You have a lot of one-offs in there that I'm not mentioning right now, too. It's not like you just didn't work. But what's the
There are periods where I just don't work. And I think people don't realize it because they get so spread out when they're released that like you don't know that there's a year and a half that, I'm like dwindling down my, finances, and I'm like, maybe I should go back to school and be a teacher.
Or should we call Disney again? Because that would be if I was you, that would be my first call to be like, hey guys, so I'm just wondering, how's the summer looked? Maybe I should come play for a little bit.
Yeah. It's so fun. I enjoy the time that I'm not working now, because I know that there will be a time when I don't get to enjoy life because I'm working. So I'm trying to have a better balance, especially being a mom, taking vacations when I can. Yeah. So with like Lotus, it's so weird to me. So in 2008, remember there was the writer's strike.
Yes.
And I booked Do Not Disturb.
Yep.
In 2020, there's this little pandemic situation that shuts our business down again. And it comes back up, and I have WandaVision that had been on the back burner for months because it had been shut down. So I'm shooting WandaVision, and I get an audition for White Lotus. And I have no idea, like, again, who and the what and the, I just look at the material, and I, have some roots in Hawaii. And so I'm like, okay, I get this. I get what this is. Mm-hmm. And I did Orange is the New Black, and I was pregnant for the second season that I did Orange, and baggy jumpsuits, great. And I
Best place to be
remember
pregnant.
in jail. Sorry. So I remember not wanting to tell anyone because I didn't want to like be written off or anything.
You didn't tell. You
I
didn't tell.
didn't tell
Good for you.
for a
It's nobody's
while.
business. Nobody's
But
business.
so for the second season, like I was flying in and out more than just staying in New York because I'm LA based. So I was flying in and out as I could. And I had morning sickness and I had to have morning flights. And so I would run into my cast and they'd be like, hey, we're going out to eat. And I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. Yeah, so I kind of already knew that feeling of not wanting people to know and keeping a face so that they don't see me like I'm about to throw up nauseous or that I have to pee or just bodily functions because I'm pregnant and it's different now. So then getting to play a character where I just experienced that in real life was like, oh, okay, I get this.
I love how life just constantly is queuing you up for the next thing. There's
Yeah.
nothing else that could be more clear that this is exactly what you needed to be doing at this time and in this place. For sake of time, because then we have White Lotus, then we have Firefly Lane, and then we get to the Bondsman, which we talked about at the beginning. There's a whole other avenue, and we were talking about this in the waiting room of the audition that we and it's been a while since I've actually gotten to talk to somebody about this, since you have had so many one-off seasons of shows, and you're currently in one right now. I would love to hear your opinion on press. Even though like we're doing an interview right now, an actor, I don't think ever gets much preparation for press. It's like, okay, we want to get the job. We get the job. Okay. You get the job even while you're pregnant. You're working through all of this stuff. How do you approach press? Especially even Jolene, there's nothing really online about you, which is incredible. Like there's some great little interviews here and there. And I think that's such a skill set to learn how to do press as an actor, still stay somewhat anonymous. So your amazing manager can be like, nope, Jolene can do this, Jolene can do that. What is your tips for doing press? Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
I feel like caffeine is my
Yeah.
tip for doing press. I don't think I was prepared for the level of press that the Bondsman gave me in the last couple of months. And it's a lot. Like it made me physically have a reaction to the amount of stress. I think actors take improv classes to be able to be present when they're like in their scenes, but take an improv class so you can learn how to do press because you are just improving the
That's
entire time.
well, and also, did the bondsman, this is getting more into the business side of things too, did the bondsman curate a publicist for you from the show, from Amazon themselves, or did you do an independent publicist?
I did an independent. So just in the length of my career, I did Do Not Disturb. I didn't have a publicist. I went on, the TCAs and they didn't know who I was when I walked onto the carpet and no one announced me and it was embarrassing. And so as I've learned, like I need to have someone in my corner because the show's publicist will have the show as their focus, or Kevin, who's promoting the show, as their focus, not me. But I think Amazon has been extremely generous with me, and it makes me feel more confident in how they view me and how important I am in the project, with how they've just been so generous and kind in supporting me in this project. But I did hire a publicist to come alongside and make sure that I wasn't left out of anything, that I wasn't like unidentified on a red carpet. And I don't know how I feel about working with publicists. The publicists I just worked with were lovely and wonderful, Shelter PR, but I still don't know how I feel about it. I live my life as a mom first, and this is my job. My daughter didn't know what I did until like this year, maybe. She would tell people, my mommy has an audition. She didn't know what it meant, but my mommy, what does your mommy do for work? She auditions,
Yeah.
and
She's got it down.
she does.
It's actually better almost to say that too, instead of like, oh, my mommy's an actor. Well, what's she been in? I love hearing, oh, she auditions. That's actually what we do the majority of the time is we're
Yeah.
just there auditioning, trying to get the job. But, and thank you. I wanted just to talk about the publicity and the press of it because that's a cost that you have to incur. You have to make a decision when it's cost effective. When I was just talking to this group of actors before, it's like running yourself as a business. Is this investment to go out and do press worth it to get me the next job? Essentially, publicity is supposed to give, of course, awareness to the project that you just did, but also awareness to you, to your work, so that there's moths for your flame. The moths
Right.
start coming and getting you the next job. And if it's done well, you know, you're going to be quite saturated with interviews. And now interviews today, yes, they can be on television and yes, they could be the press junket, but a lot of it is also just filling out stuff online that takes hours and it's a full-time job that I think a lot of actors, this is part of our job, but nobody ever really talks about it so much about what's demanded of you. And when you got on the Bondsman, did they have press negotiated into your contract that you would have to do a certain amount of appearances or anything? They probably didn't.
I'm really good at the business side of things. So I'm just,
I
so I
like you're
actually
like
can't
Bernard,
help.
just sign for me. I love that the manager can just do it all. Just do it.
Basically, because he is invested in me as a person, so much so that he's like in my home with my family, like at my wedding, like, he's been in my life for so long. He has my best interest. I have no doubt. And yes, I do look over it, of course, but those nitty gritty things, I know that they get done. Press is always in it that you have to be available to do press for the show because as a series regular, they're paying you that amount to be available to them when they need you. So I'm fairly certain, I don't think it was dictated how many interviews because I did 40. I did 40
That's what
back-to-back
in
interviews
one day.
in one sitting. Yeah.
How many minutes for each one?
A lot of them were 4 minutes with a 1 minute break.
And you're basically saying the same thing over and over again, and you have to find inventive ways to say it again so it doesn't get stale. Talk about utilizing all of your talents and putting them on the spot.
My brain hurt so bad. I got in the car after that and I just fell asleep. Amazon was so kind. They sent a car for me that day, but I
God.
think they just really didn't want me to die driving home in traffic because they
I
knew
would,
I'd be
yeah.
done.
I was just gonna say, is it kind or Amazon's like, we know how bad this is gonna be. It's gonna be brutal. We'll put water in the car for you too. I'm sure you'll be parched.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is relentless what is demanded of you. And then during this time, you're out trying to get another job.
Yep.
Not
So
that we're
you had-
complaining. I just really want actors to understand, like every level you get to, there's a new set of challenges, and a new skill set,
Yep.
essentially, to learn to keep you in this career, not a one-off job, but as a career.
Yeah. So, and then being a mom on top of it and trying to manage my self tapes around, my daughter's school schedule or after she goes to sleep. And I do commercials. Like I want to stay in LA and get paid. So I'm not above doing commercials. I know some people feel really weird about it. I'm not above it. I love it. So I'm like going to a commercial audition and then going to some press thing. And it's just this juggle and you have to have people that are willing to pick up the pieces in your personal life because you just can't. I would say for the last 2 months, my entire system has been on go. And I'm just now kind of settling in where like days like this are kind of nice now because it's not every day that I get to put this hat back on. Yeah. And financially, when you were talking about making the financial decision for a publicist, both of my managers and I sat down and we weighed, this is what the cost is going to be. Yes, you made this amount on the show and it is a tax deduction through your corporation. I had to make the decision when I started my corporation, when do you do that? I think I take for granted some of the things that I've learned along the way when I think about new actors coming up that haven't quite learned it. But as much as you pivot in a show and in a character, you have to pivot and learn the business too. So it's just right brain, left brain, and get a team that pushes you and supports you in both.
Bernard's now going to get hit up by a bunch of actors being like, oh my God, I love this so much.
Bernard is not taking any more people on. He is now doing more directors and starting
Good.
some producing of his own. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
He's your one and only now. We get to talk about everybody's going to want one. That can be assured. I want a Bernard too.
Find you a Bernard. Even
Right.
so, Matt is now a manager, and I don't know. They might maybe hit up Matt.
There you go.
Throw Matt under the bus.
That's the pivot. That's the pivot. I want to ask one more question and then I'll let you go. So you've been working well over 20 years, and I know that your process has changed from show to show, from people that you've worked with. You just worked with Kevin Bacon and Beth Grant again. What is, if you can distill it down, what is your process now when you get an audition? Other than reading the script, what are some of the ways in which you start to do your analytical work to try and find the character, to try and find the Jolene version before you give the fuck it version?
It's so funny. I think I've done it so much. It's just I'm wired to do it. So to break it down is difficult. And spoilers, sometimes I don't read the script.
I mean,
Sometimes you don't
can
have
get it.
time.
You don't have time and you have everything in the sides right there. Like,
Yeah.
are you looking at patterns of behavior? Like some people, I interviewed a bunch of women from Orange is the New Black. Selena Slavia, she was like, every character, I just start with music. What do they listen to? And then that's how she kind of goes in. And I'm like, what an interesting way in. Some people are more body oriented. How does this person walk? How does this, like, what am I figuring out? So I just always find it interesting to see if there's one or two things that you kind of, even though you've been doing it for a while, that you pick up and you grab and you're like, oh, okay, I'm looking at this pattern of behavior here. I see this, or this is the story, this is the character. If you have one thing that you kind of consistently do, or even that you just look at, like, I mean, let's talk about the Bondsman. That was a 3-page monologue of exposition. What was the first couple of things you did before you started to find the musicality of making it comedic with that long of a monologue?
So I think the first thing I do is I memorize. And I know there's teleprompters and, new school people are like, you have to pay me to memorize. No, you don't have to pay me to memorize. That's part of my job. I will memorize it. Because if I have it in my head and in my body, then I can say fuck it and forget it and live in the moment and pay attention to the character. I think when I read something, I see how my character reacts to what is said before that tells you kind of who they are. I think punctuation is very important for pacing. Dot, dot, dot is very different than dash, is very different than exclamation, and so I think the writers tend to give you these little clues. I loved my AP English class that was so into all of that. And so I pay attention to that and pacing. I, see what the character description is, but I know what's authentic to me and how I can make, something that's authentic to me match what their character description is. And if I can't, can I make a different choice that's authentic to me that still will get the same result in a different way? So I think that's what I do. I always know what the Jolene version is. So that's in my body. I don't have to think about it. I have developed almost like an SNL kind of arsenal of characters that I have. So I know, oh, this is Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids kind of character. Got it. And I know I can flip into that. It would be fun to take it that way. Or would it be fun to like be a little more bitchy in this way? Would it be, and so I as I read it because I memorize it, I carry it with me. I don't memorize until the day before I tape so that I'm not living like a crazy person for multiple days, but I'll memorize it. So as I'm driving, I'll be running the lines and living life in this character. Not that I'm being her necessarily, but I'm aware of her and how she would be in every day. Another thing is I look at who I'm acting opposite and I make sure that it's going to be an engaging choice of character opposite their energy and who they are.
Yes, juxtaposition. That's my favorite. It does all the work for you.
Yeah.
It does all the work for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to work so hard once you know what you're juxtaposing. I'm so grateful that we got to be in person because getting to do this show for like the last 15 years has been a joy. I work with people, they get to come on the show. I work with people, they grace me by coming on the show, or we get pitched people all the time, but there was something about that day that really invigorated me in community, that when we're at home, when we're taping, it's one thing. It's another thing to be a part of a community of so many actors listening or that I'm coaching. It's another thing to sit in a room with an actor that it just feels so welcoming and cheerleading. Like we're all doing in this together. And if you don't get this, God bless, please, like vice versa. It just was a very beautiful experience. It made my day. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming and doing this. And then I got to go and do a deep dive on all of your work. Like it was such a joy. It was such a joy, Jolene. It was great.
Thank you. I'm so happy I met you that day. Like you were what I needed. Forget that job. You were what I needed that day in that moment in so many personal, professional ways. Like I said, I called right after and I was like, I don't know what my press stuff looks like, but I want to get on this podcast. I want to talk to her again. So,
Me too. I can't wait till we're on screen together. I want when you meet somebody and you're like, I want to work. Let's work. Let's work. Let's play.
Yes.
I can't wait. Wait, flipping out. Is that something you're currently writing? Have finished, or is this something that's been living on IMDb for a minute?
So the writer's strike happened and I was like, I grew up doing theater and I did all the roles in theater. So I understood the work that every single person put into the show, like costumes, props, lighting, everything. I didn't get to do that with TV. So during the writer's strike, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get all my friends that don't have jobs and we're gonna play and do this thing. And I worked with Robin Okrant, who's a writer and an actress as well. And both of our kids do parkour. And we always sat and just made fun of the world that is parkour. So we're like, let's just write it. So we wrote it together. I got my friends, we shot it. And now we're like, well, that was fun. We're building it into something to hopefully sell.
Good. I can see that's where I'm like, I want to see you stepping into that lane. I could definitely see that. Okay, where can everybody follow along? They can definitely watch The Bondsman on Amazon. Are you on socials? Are you on the socials?
I am mildly. I'm not good at it.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
But I'm Instagram, Jojo Purdy, and I think I'm on TikTok at one point. And I think it's real Jojo Purdy because Jojo Purdy was taken. I don't know.
I love it. Okay. Thank you so much, babe. Thanks for doing this.